Welcome to this workshop, Everything Cartwheels. We're gonna do beginner cartwheels, advanced cartwheels. We're gonna look at how we can use cartwheels to learn how to fall from handstand and also play with different entries and shapes in handstands. We've got everything here. And just also to begin, if you can, do this out in an open space, okay? Even if you cannot do that right now as you watch this video, I encourage you to take what I offer in this video and do it out in a park. Who cares how old you are and what other people think? If you ask me, the world needs more adults cartwheeling in parks. I mean, can you imagine what the world would look like if it was normal for adults to do cartwheels in public? So please be an advocate for youthful energy and not letting your inner child die as you grow older. But I have purposefully put myself in this little corner of my little living room for this workshop so that I can be in solidarity with those of you who are learning a cartwheel with me now, and you only have a limited amount of space. Ideally, you'll be able to take up a lot more space than what a yoga mat provides. But yeah, I thought we can learn it here, and then, as I said, take it out into your back garden, your park, whatever. As I said, we're gonna cover a lot in this workshop, so I have provided timestamps so that you can click ahead if you already know how to cartwheel, for example, and you're here for the more advanced cartwheels. But we're gonna begin right at the very, very basics. So I know that I feel like there's two types of people in the world. There's people who did cartwheels as a kid and so they can still remember how to do it as an adult. And then there's people who never did it as a kid. And so your brain has no freaking clue of what to do, and it can be very confusing. So we're gonna begin, come to a kind of warrior two stance with me, right? So maybe do it with me with your right toe pointing forward. Your hips are open, your chest is open to the side, facing sideways, and you're reaching your arms away from each other with your gaze in front of your right finger, okay? Now, can you lean forward into that right foot and just swing your left foot around, placing it down, and swing your right leg around and come into a warrior two, facing the direction you came from, okay? So we'll do a couple more like that. So it's just a warrior two, swing around. So you're doing a 180-degree turn to come back into that warrior two on the right leg, okay? So just warrior two to warrior two, do, do, do. So we're going both ways, okay? And this should be pretty easy, okay? If you're struggling with that, then that's where you're gonna pause the video and just keep on working on that, okay? But if you're ready to move on, we're just gonna add on, take the arms down and look down. So maybe even touch your knees, tap your knees as you go from warrior two. So look down, tap your knees, warrior two, okay? So, do, 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 do. We're looking down and then lifting the head up, okay? And so we're starting to get that cartwheel motion. So again, if you're still like, what am I doing? Just pause the video, keep working on that. That just little add-on of looking down and bringing the hands down and then back up, okay? If you're ready to move on, so instead of hands going to the knees, we're just putting the hands all the way on the floor, okay? So all the way down, stand back up into your warrior two. All the way down, stand back up into your warrior two. And as you get a feel for this, maybe you can start to add a little hop so you get just a little bit of air time. So it's like, do, okay? And we're doing essentially cartwheels now, okay? And I don't want you to have to think about it too much. It's just going from that warrior two position to the warrior two position on the other side. But if you do need to think about it, your fingers are always going to point in the direction of the outside of your foot, okay? It may not be helpful to think about it that way though. Just keep doing that same action. If you need to go back to just having your hands on your knees, do that, okay? If you need to go back to step 1 to get a feel for this. It's really confusing, okay? So please don't feel shy about just pausing the video and really honing in this foundational movement, okay? So as you start to feel more comfortable with that, with the hands down and the little hop, all we're gonna do is just think about trying to hop a little bit more. So right now, if you were to look at it from the side, you see my legs are swinging around. My legs are going this way. Ideally, I want my legs to go up over my hands, okay? That might be a little bit scary to go all the way over your hands at first, but you can find some little in between. So just thinking about lifting, getting those legs higher and higher. Now, at this point, if this is starting to feel really familiar for you, this might be where you pause the video and you go find a park, somewhere that you've got lots of space. Because it can be really nice then if what you do is try to spread your cartwheel out now, okay? If you don't have the space for it, no worries. You can just do a half cartwheel. So kind of lunging a little bit bigger. So instead of putting the hands down right in front of the foot, think about reaching them forward and then just kind of come out of it like that. But then you're starting to get a little bit of that length of a longer cartwheel. And with that momentum, it can be easier to get the legs up over your head. As you're doing these though, please, 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 don't get caught up in the handstand part where you're vertical. Finish the cartwheel, okay? So what I mean by that is don't come out of it and then be like, huh? Remember, you start here, warrior 2, and you finish here, warrior 2. So no matter what you're doing, however you come out of it, try to be like, oh, I gotta face the direction I came from. That's what makes it a cartwheel. You're facing the direction you came from. So make it nice and long, maybe make it a half cartwheel if you don't have the space. Finish it, facing the direction you came from. Make it nice and long, come out of it if you don't have the space. Finish facing the direction you came from. Repetition is key, that's why I keep repeating myself. All right, so at this point, I wanna take a little pause and just explain a few things that may be helpful to know about. So the first one is that, again, if you're coming here as an adult who never did cartwheels as a kid or anything, then if you think about it, this initial movement of going sideways and down, that's probably not something you do in everyday life. Your brain may not recognize that. It may be like, I've never done this before. What's happening? Okay? And so it may be useful to train your vestibular system. That's just the part of your brain that tells you what way is up and what direction you're moving in that movement, okay? And so that's why I've got this Cartwheel Skill Factory on Move with Adell, and in it we're doing a lot of like reverse warrior or warrior 2, just leaning down into that initial movement, just to get our brain used to moving there. Okay, so a little warrior 2 into a kind of half moon. That movement right there, keeping your gaze down, okay? Not helpful if you're like all over the place. So just looking down at where your hand is gonna be and leaning down, maybe coming back up. That can be a really helpful drill, especially if you are finding yourself to be feeling kind of dizzy or disorientated by this action, okay? So practicing that movement on both sides, okay? Practice those flows where I just build these little movements into the yoga asana flow with me. If you like to mix your drills in with yoga. That's what we do on Move with Adell. Drills, yoga asana, mix it in together, okay? All right, so respect your vestibular system. So the second thing that can be worth paying attention to is just building some proprioception and some awareness of your hip joints. So where your femur attaches into your pelvis, right? So circling those joints around, as well as your pelvis itself and how it can tilt side to side and everything, okay? Because very often what happens in a cartwheel is that top leg gets kind of confused and it ends up just kind of going all over the place, okay? So hopefully the way that I've built it up for you with the warrior two and kicking over and landing facing the direction you came from will be enough. But just be aware of those hip joints if you're kind of finding yourself like landing in some weird position and you're like, how am I supposed to land facing the direction I came in? Like, it could be because instead of holding that warrior two shape, pelvis, chest, facing the long side of this yoga mat, maybe it's an imaginary yoga mat for you, as we go into it is kind of like a half moon, right? Pelvis, chest, still open to the side, not closing to the floor, not opening to the ceiling, okay? As we go through into the handstand, we want also the same thing, okay? So not a full, like a, what's it called, front split. It's hard to talk upside down. Not a front split, right? No twisting happening. So slowing things down can really help to pay attention to that. You can skip this though if you are pretty comfortably coming back facing the direction you came in, okay? That's just an extra little tip if you're finding yourself getting disorientated and you don't think it's from the movement of your head through space, okay? So that kind of covers like everything that a beginner needs for handstands. I want to just reiterate, like, the amount of time that we have spent together in this video is not the amount of time that you'll need to master these things. Give yourself time. Remember, don't be such an adult. Be a child. What do children do? They might take a year to learn a cartwheel. They don't care. So give yourself grace. Go out and play and come back to this video for those tips if you need to, okay? But now, before I move on to the advanced cartwheels, I want to talk about how we can use that cartwheel action to learn how to fall from handstand, specifically to cartwheel out of a handstand, okay? And cartwheeling out of handstand is, I think, the preferred way to fall for most people, because the alternatives, and I don't mean falling back this way, like we're all okay with that. I mean falling, the alternatives are to fall into a wheel, which scares people, to roll out, to walk on your hands. The cartwheel out is the most accessible for most people, okay? So that's what we're gonna learn here. How do we use the cartwheel that we've been learning to put that into a handstand? So what you're gonna do is you're going to put your hands down like you're in a downward facing dog, okay? So fingers pointing forwards. This isn't the cartwheel position of the hands, right? This is just a downward dog, right? You're gonna lift the left leg up. With that left leg lifted, rock your shoulders forward over your hands just a little bit. Lean your weight into your right hand. Left hand is gonna move to cartwheel position, okay? That's all it is. So try that a few times. Lean your weight from your right leg into your hands and take that left hand around into the, like your left hand wants to do a cartwheel, okay? Then what we're gonna do is just add a little bit of air time, a little bit of a hop. So when your leg is in the air, left hand moves, okay? So a little hop, left hand moves. It does not matter what it looks like. I just want you to get a feel of being able to move that left hand around into that cartwheel position while you're in the air, okay? So then we're gonna start to put it with the cartwheeling that we have been doing from standing up, okay? So it looks like this. You're gonna go into, like you're gonna do a cartwheel, but first hit that three-legged down dog position, okay? So you can do it from standing. So you hit that three-legged down dog and then move the hand around, okay? So maybe do that a few times. Down, boom. Try and speed it up, okay? And all we're doing is we're gonna cartwheel. We're gonna cartwheel just like we have been doing, but you're gonna put your hands as if you're gonna do a handstand. So it's handstand, no cartwheel. So it's the same thing. You finish facing the direction you came from. And actually, yeah, while we're here, let's think about it, how it looks from the other side. So everything is the opposite. So hands go down, right leg comes up. That means right arm is going to come around, okay? Maybe get a feel for how that feels from standing. Boom. Okay, so think cartwheel. You're just doing a cartwheel. But your hands go into handstand position, and then it's like you change your mind. You're like, oh, I was gonna do a cartwheel, but my hands are wrong. Whoops. So it's all just a cartwheel. And what I see sometimes with people when they're learning this is they get a little bit too excited about the cartwheel and they end up moving that hand a little bit too soon, and it's just barely even touching the floor. That's okay, but please be aware of it and try to change it. Don't get into a habit of that. So try and actually have that hand down and then move it around. And so what I just did is going to be what you're aiming for, okay? Again, this little move, ideally do it somewhere you've got space. Even if consciously you know that you're safe if you accidentally kick the wall and you don't mind, sorry, kicking your little plant, this guy's getting beat up. Your subconscious brain may not be happy with that, okay? So you may find better results if you're out in the open, okay? But yeah, that's what you're building up to eventually, is you want to try to get all the way vertical. Notice I'm not trying to slam my feet together, but I'm vertical in a handstand, and then cartwheel out. And that's it. So we're taking the cartwheel, and we're just adding an extra little hand movement, boom, to learn how to cartwheel out. And then you can slow it down and you try to find that handstand. And when you feel like, oh no, now I'm falling, then you've got it in your brain. You've built that movement into your brain maps. And so you can actually enjoy being upside down in a handstand. And if you go, oh no, oh, I'm losing it, you've built up that skill of cartwheeling out, okay? So, again, this will take time. If you think about any skill, you don't develop it in a few minutes, okay? But take this with you, go and play with it. Think about, it's just a cartwheel. You're just starting with your hands in handstand position. Whee! And try to look for more and more and more air time. And I've been kind of demoing it on both sides, okay? And so let me address that. At first, when you first are learning how to fall, especially if it's something that scares you, it may be enough, it's probably enough, to just work on one way to fall. However, as soon as you can, start to give yourself an alternative way to fall. The more ways that you can fall from a handstand with confidence, and the confidence just comes from doing it over and over and over again, the more comfortable you will be kicking up to vertical and trying to find that balance and enjoying actually being in a handstand, okay? So this is my favorite way to teach falling from handstands. I hope that it's working for you. Let me know if you have any questions. But we're gonna move on to a couple more skills now, and these are a little bit more advanced, okay? So these are for people who are already pretty confident with their handstands, but wanna use these little drills that we've been working on as a way to play with different variations of their handstands, okay? So while we're on this like little moving of the hand thing, we're gonna carry on with that, okay? So if you've clicked on the timestamp and you've just arrived, what we're doing is we're going from the kind of three-legged down dog position and moving the outside hand, so the same hand of the leg that's lifted, to the cartwheel position as a way to fall out of handstand, okay? But what we can also do is just not fall, right? And so what we can do is same thing, but you're gonna bring your legs together perhaps. You could do a double stag, you can do whatever. It's, yeah. But you're gonna do that same, boom, but not fall. Because then you just take the other hand around, okay? So it's just the same action, but then we add on another step of the hand. So what we're working towards is a little pirouette, right? So you get your handstand, you take one arm around, and then the other arm around, whoopsie. Or maybe you just kind of play around with it like that. We'll do it from the other side. So if the right leg is the one behind in the back, we might take the right arm around, and then the left arm comes to meet it. And then we've got a little 180, right? So have a little play around with that. You can do it in many different ways. But yeah, that's, if you're new to adding pirouettes into your handstands, but that's something you wanna play around with, then that's kind of how you can think about it. I mean, there's lots of different ways that you can pirouette. Obviously, you can just take lots of little steps. I don't see that there's a problem with it if you're just doing it for fun. But I really like to do this in my yoga practice. If, for whatever reason, maybe I've done a standing split and I'm at the back of my mat, and then I'm like, oh, handstand. But then I'm like, I kind of want to just vinyasa now. So I might just turn myself around while I'm in a handstand. So there we go. That's a little add-on that you can use with that falling technique. Okay, so finally, we're gonna go back to our cartwheels. So hands aren't gonna move, but look at how we can make them into advanced cartwheels. Okay, so this is for you if you can already kind of kick up and find vertical, and maybe you're holding your handstand for a second or two. You don't need to be any more advanced in your handstands than that, I reckon. Or maybe you're still working on finding the balance, okay? This is an alternate way of getting into handstand. It's not for everybody, but I have had some private clients over the years who just could not for the life of them find that handstand balance if they kicked into it or jumped into it in that kind of forward momentum movement. But as soon as they cartwheeled into it, that's how they were able to find balance. So I talked about when you're at the beginning for handstands, like you wanna try to get in a place where you can really take up a lot of space and get a lot of momentum. So the other side of that would be to really slow down and compact your movement for that more advanced cartwheel. And this is where the awareness of your pelvis and hip is gonna be really important. So basically, if you wanna think of like a half moon pose, Ardha Chandrasana, if you reach over Bend the bottom knee if you need to, or just come up onto the tiptoe if you can't quite get that reach. But think about slowing it down. And so maybe a little bit of momentum, right? But trying to just do like a slow motion cartwheel. Okay, and maybe don't even bother standing up in between. Just kind of stay right here in this kind of half moon to half moon. And play around with how slow can you go. And maybe get that handstand at the top. And then if you can start to slowly lower back down, then that's going to build up a lot of strength and awareness. Okay, so really slowing down your handstand, the cartwheel, trying to find the handstand at the top, and then slowing it down to come out of it. So again, this is a point where it might be nice just to pause the video and spend a little bit of time playing around with that. A few tips though, before you pause the video, just in case you don't come back. Make sure, like always, you're pushing through the shoulders. And you can even use this action of like pushing through the arm that's gonna have most of your weight at the beginning to help you get vertical. So it's a push through that arm until your weight is evenly distributed on both arms. And then as you come down, you wanna push through that arm that's gonna start to get more of your weight. So don't lose that push. If you let your shoulders collapse, then you're gonna lose all your power. So it's not letting that happen, okay? Also, as I've mentioned a couple times, try to be aware of what's happening in your hip joint. So often I see people try to get that leg up and then it ends up going behind them or something like this, or you close in the hip too much. I hope that you can see what I mean in the video. So holding that kind of warrior half moon position and just trying to like lock in the leg may be something to focus on so that you're not kind of knocking yourself off balance with your legs going in different directions, right? Okay, so then eventually you can maybe see how this can start to turn into like a puppy press, which is a nice entry into pressing to handstand. So I will say, with a cartwheel, ideally, I would like to see your cartwheel as if you're on a balance beam. So a nice line of foot, foot, hand, hand, foot, foot. Okay, when you start to puppy press, depending on your flexibility and everything though, it might be nice to imagine that you've got a rainbow shooting out of your toes. Roy G. Biv. And so following this like arc, so your toe is pointing not forwards, but about 90 degrees outwards. And then you've got this little rainbow arc. And so you place your hands roughly on that arc. So they're just gonna be pinky toe side of the foot. And then with the top leg bent, that can give you a little bit more range of motion. And you're gonna bring the knee towards the shoulder. So you're going from open and bringing it up towards the shoulder. And that action, as you lean off of your standing foot and into the hands, see, I'm using that top knee to kind of pull me that way, but also up. And then you've got that puppy press. And another thing that I like to think of is maybe if you're on a yoga mat, imagine that there's a wall right there on the edge of your yoga mat. And so you don't want to kick the wall. So the bottom leg, its trajectory is straight up, not out to the side, okay? Sometimes when we're coming at it with a cartwheel mentality, we think that we can do this. No. Bottom leg goes straight up. Top knee moves towards its respective shoulder. Boom. Lean into your hands, and then you've got that puppy press. And from here, you can negative press down and work on those lateral bends. See, oh, I lost. My pelvis went wonky, that's why I fell. I got things to work on too, you know. But yeah, so basically, the advanced cartwheel, as I like to call it, is slowing it down as much as possible. And like I said, compacting it into a smaller space. Removing momentum and replacing that with control. Like everything that I've covered in this video, it takes some time. It takes practice. And so wherever you are in your cartwheel or handstand journey, I encourage you to remember you are probably, I guess, an adult, which means you've got a very busy schedule every single day. So how can you build these things into what you're already doing? This is why I really love building my handstand drills or whatever other drills that I'm working on, cartwheel drills, puppy press drills, into my yoga practice, because I know I'm going to do yoga like at least 4 times a week. And so if I'm getting the drills in while I'm on my mat anyway, that's how I see progress. If I say, oh, I got to do yoga and I got to go to the gym, but then I also need to find time to practice my cartwheels, like, forget about it. Except cartwheels are easy because you do them when you're in the park, right? So, quick recap. When you're getting a feel for the cartwheels at the beginning, you want to just think about trying to get your hips higher and higher over your hands. Don't think about the legs. I didn't say that before, but you don't want to donkey kick your legs up. Forget about your legs, get your hips up, okay? That's what we're looking for. Hips over as high up to the sky as you can. And build speed, build momentum, build how much space you take up. Then use that same action to learn to cartwheel out of handstand, but don't get so good at cartwheeling out of handstand that you don't actually enjoy the handstand. Pause. Fight for the balance as long as you can. Maybe try and find the shape that you're looking for, like a straight handstand. And know that inevitably, when you do fall, you can cartwheel out. Then you can also use the pirouetting if you want to get fancy, right? And then for the advanced cartwheels, it's really just about slowing it down, trying to find a little handstand there, and maybe building in more and more control into that side flexion, okay? So thank you so much for doing this workshop with me. Put any questions that you have down below in the comments and I'll try to answer them for you. And please know that I do in-person stuff throughout the year. I've got handstand retreats where you can spend a week with me, and sometimes exactly what you need is just somebody to spot you, which obviously I can't do through the screen as much as I would love to. I've got workshops and I'm teaching at festivals and all sorts, so I'll put a link in the description to all my in-person events for you as well. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to go be a kid and play.